Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to another advanced listening practice lesson. In this video, I wanted to talk about something that's actually one of the most important questions, or one of the biggest or most commonly asked questions I receive from learners, and this is, how can I continue to speak fluently without getting stuck? Now, the reason people get stuck there, and I like to kind of go through the source of things so you can understand what's really happening, because there are two ways to solve something. One is like the kind of putting a band-aid over the problem right now, and we can kind of help you do that in this video, a short-term solution that will help you a little bit, but really the important long-term solution, and I'll talk about the long-term solution first, is really going back to the source of why you struggle when you speak. So let's talk about that first. Now, the problem that people have is, and this even happens to me sometimes when I'm trying to speak Japanese and I'll be saying something and maybe I can't quite think of something. It's like maybe I'd even practiced the word before, so I learned the word, and then in the conversations I was like, I can't remember what it was. So it could be, there's, again, many reasons why it can happen, and this is why it's important to think about what's happening in that time. Is it a word you know that you just forgot? Or is it a word that you didn't learn before? Or is it something that you just actually, it's like a phrase or a whole idea that you just don't know how to explain because you never learned how to do that thing. So it could be, again, something you learned before and you forgot it, or you never learned it in the first place. And the reason why people often get stuck is it could be, again, one of those reasons, or maybe you're thinking it could be about using the grammar for that particular phrase. So you might know how to say something, but the grammar becomes maybe the kind of sticking point or the thing that stops you from being able to communicate. Or it could be thinking about your pronunciation or anything else, but people get stuck in conversations for a number of reasons. And typically, the reason why that happens, if we're going from the conversation back to the source of the problem, it's because of how you learned. And when people are going from the kind of traditional way that people would learn English and they're coming to my way of learning English, it's much more thinking about developing habits as opposed to learning specific things. And obviously you learn like all of the ways of expressing yourself, the maybe particular phrases and expressions like slang and idioms. You learn all of those things as you learn with me, but you learn them through the native way of learning. And you do that by developing the right English fluency habits. So instead of just trying to learn all these different pieces of information and then think you will magically put them together in a conversation in your head, it doesn't work that way. So that's why you have, people that can learn all this information, but then when they get in the actual conversation, like they run out of things to say. So they lose their words or they get stuck. They feel, like I just don't know what to say for the next thing. So always try to go back. The real long-term solution to this is actually to develop the habits that let you speak effortlessly, that let you speak automatically, that let you speak fluently and continuously. So all of these things come from developing the correct English fluency habits, and that's why these are so important to develop. But the kind of short-term thinking, if we want to get into that, because I know people want to know right now, how can I start speaking more and just not really worry so much about that? Really, the two things that you can do, number one, you can relax more in a conversation, because really the nervousness that appears in the conversation really is the main contributor, especially when people know the information already, but they forget it in conversation. So maybe you were practicing something, but then the opportunity arises in a conversation to use that, and you're feeling nervous, and it just doesn't come to your mind at that time. So the more you can relax, and the best way to relax really is just to remember, hey, so what if I make a mistake? It's okay. I'm just speaking with people. Or as I've mentioned in a previous video in this series, you can actually admit you're feeling a little bit nervous, and that's okay. So if you admit that and you just talk about how you're feeling nervous, kind of at the beginning of the conversation, just talk about maybe your feelings. Today I'm feeling a little bit nervous, and maybe it's about this conversation or something else. But, if I forget something, that's probably the reason for it. So when you're feeling more relaxed in conversations and you don't try to force the language, even right now as I'm speaking, I have a general topic I'd like to talk about, but I'm not reading anything for these lessons. I don't have any particular order in which I'd like to say things. I'm just naturally speaking. Now, typically my mind is slightly ahead of what I'm trying to say, but generally I really just have kind of a general idea of what I'd like to say, and then I let the words just come out. And this is what I'm trying to train you to do as you're listening to these lessons and in lessons like Master English Conversation, where we show you how the language works and then how people actually start using it such that you can answer things in conversations or just speak about whatever you'd like in a fluent way. So again, the relaxing thing, like I'm very relaxed when I do this. I really love helping people learn, and I like even getting to speak in front of groups of people. I remember not that long ago, I was giving a speech in Japanese and English at a friend of mine's wedding, and it was like I could feel like the nervousness come up from me, but I was like excited about that because I was really happy to get out and speak and maybe like tell a few jokes and make some people enjoy their meal in their evening much more. So I was really happy to do that. And even if I felt nervous, or even if you feel nervous in a particular situation, you don't let that stop you from, actually trying to speak. You make note of that. You let people know about the nervousness that you're feeling, or you make it clear for yourself, and then that helps you relax more in conversations. So again, make it clear, number one, or just remember, like, okay, so what if I make a mistake? It's okay. The other thing you can do, really the second kind of tactical thing you can do to improve the way you speak and your fluency, is if you kind of use your fluency in the way that I'm speaking right now, you think about it as water that's moving down like a mountainside, something like that. So water is very lazy, and water is trying to move in like maybe a particular way or another place. And if it gets to a particular location where it stops, then maybe the water pools up like you've got a river, and then the water moves down over something else. But water doesn't go uphill. It doesn't go anywhere else where it would require any effort. It's really just taking the laziest path. And that's what I'm really doing when I'm speaking like this. So I don't have, again, a clear path about where I want to go. I'm just letting the flow of my words come out in a natural way. So let's say I wanted to talk about penguins. Like right now, I'm just thinking about this idea of talking about penguins. Now, I have no idea. I had no plan to talk about penguins, but maybe I can envision a penguin in my mind, and I'm thinking about where they live, and I begin to just get associations about, okay, we have a story of a penguin, and he's walking, and he's on the snow, and he's hopping around and talking to other penguins. And again, this is just a silly example, but it's a kind of way of practicing where you just think of something and then get the visual idea of it in your mind, and then let your mind create the words that come from that. So if you can relax, and then maybe you don't know exactly how to express something, so maybe I don't know how to express something I want to say in Japanese, I have a general idea, I just relax and maybe let the expression come out in a slightly different way, and then if I'm speaking with someone, I'll say, hey, is this a good way to say it? Or if they laugh at me, I say, oh, like, I guess I didn't pronounce that correctly, or I didn't say that correctly. What would be a better way to say that? So if I'm open and honest with my own mistakes, then other people relax more as well, and they're happy to tell me about, oh, you shouldn't say it that way, you should say it in a different way. Now, if you're speaking with people and they're nervous about trying to correct you or something, because you have to take that opportunity first to say, hey, like, I want to improve. Or if they laugh at you, just say, oh, like, what was funny about that? Like, you really want to know. So you're not angry. You're not frustrated. You're like excited. Oh, like, here's an opportunity for me to learn something. And so the more you're getting excited about that, the more you're able to help other people kind of enjoy the conversation with you, so the whole conversation becomes better. So in the short term, think about relaxing and think about how you can just say kind of what you want to say. And I've given this example before about phrasal verbs specifically. So let's say I have this bottle of water right here, and maybe you don't know exactly the way to talk about like doing this action, and I'm going to let water come out of the bottle into my hand. Now, maybe you don't know exactly how to say that, but you could say like, turn the bottle and water falls out of the bottle, something like that. So that's a good way to express it. But if you're talking with a native speaker, they might say, oh, you tip over or tip the bottle. So you tip the bottle and you pour out the water. So it's a similar way of expressing it, but it's a more natural and native way that native speakers would use. And these are the kinds of things that you develop in a conversation. The actual conversation is where you develop your fluency. And this is where a lot of students miss the whole point of being able to develop fluency, because they think fluency is built outside of the conversation. They think, okay, I'm learning all of these words and phrases, and then I'll use them when I get into the conversation. No. It doesn't work that way. It works as a thing that you develop in the conversation itself. So this is how you develop conversational fluency. And this is why we call it conversational fluency as opposed to book learning fluency. So it's not about, okay, I remembered all these words and I can use them all when I'm just talking to myself, but when I get into a real conversation, I forget what I want to say. Or the words, they escape my mind, or, I get stuck, whatever way you want to express it. So in the conversation itself, again, the more you can relax and the more you let your words flow like water, the more easy it is for you to become a more confident speaker, because you're not worrying about things and you're actually giving the other person the opportunity to improve with you and to have better conversations as well. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this, do click that button for liking this video. Do become a subscriber to the EnglishAnyone.com YouTube channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye. To continue learning, click on the link in this video to download Speak English Naturally, our free guide to speaking and sounding like a native English speaker. The guide reveals the 3 most important kinds of conversational English you must learn if you want to sound native, and will help you experience instant improvement in your fluency and speaking confidence. To download your free guide on a mobile device, click on the link in the upper right of this video. To download your free guide from a computer, click on the link in the lower right of this video. I look forward to seeing you in the guide.